Hello, friends. 1057 days of war between Russia and Ukraine. And by now, if you are a regular visitor of my site, you know that I do not confine myself to war in this region, but also what is happening in Middle East and elsewhere. But not to pass you information, but to also give some analysis and insight. Where is the global politics and economies are moving, and also what we ought to do. In southern war zone, in Zaporizhia, Dnipro areas, in Velika Novosilka, Russians army after capturing Neskuchene is carrying out offensive operations towards Remifika, closing cauldron of Velika Novosilka from southwest and also from northeast from Novi Komar direction. Coming to Kurakho Pokrova sectors, Russians have been advancing towards Kostianty Novaka Pokrovsk highway. In Kurakho sector, Ukrainians are holding desperately along Ulakli, Kostianty Nopil, Andrivka, and west of Dakini line, while Russians have made gains towards south of Slovianka and also advancing west of Novoelizavetika and west of Novosilivka, which is touching the Pokrovsk sector. Here, Ukrainians carried out counterattacks in Zeleny and Lai Sovka, however, no gains, and both Zeleny and Peshane remains under Russians' control. Russians' assaults have reached Zavirivo and towards approaches to Chunishny, and they advance east of Udakne, southwest of Kotlin. Coming to other parts of eastern sector, in Toretsk, Russians are in process of cleaning the city, while in Bakhmut Chasiv Russians have extended their control zone in refractory plant. In Siversk, situation remains as before, and that includes even Serebryansky forestry. Coming to northeast Ukraine, Russian MOD claimed to have liberated Terny, which is also accepted by ISW. Russians' offensive operations continuing west of Swatovo and northeast of Kupiansk in Davorikna area. Now coming to Kursk, some Western analysts have calculated that Russians have regained territories which they had lost in last Ukrainian raids in Bordina, Novosut, Nitskoye area. Now, in totality, Ukrainians hold approximately 440 kilometers square, which they had managed in August September last year, up to 1200 kilometers square. In the meantime, Russians' offensive operation continuing and the advance left flank of Malaya Lokanya, and Ukrainians retreated from there behind the river. Interdiction missions. Ukrainians carried out huge attacks on Russian territory like Tatarstan, Engil-Sarato, Bryansk, using UAVs, ATACMS, Storm Shadows. More ATACMS were also used on Black Sea, and this is one of their largest attack in Russian territory, selecting targets of energy sectors and others, while Russians also hit Ukrainian targets in Kherson, Kiev, Zhytomyr, Sumy. Now coming to Palestine, Israel, Middle East. There are talks in media of ceasefire between Hamas and Israel and POW exchanges, which is also being repeatedly said by American representatives. However, in the meantime, IDF continues massive airstrikes in Gaza Strip and also in counterattacks. They lost 15 troops plus in the ground operations where Palestinian resistance carried out ambush attacks. Lebanese ceasefire exists almost now 50 days despite IDF's airstrikes on against Lebanese targets. Houthis operations continuing with drones and Palestine 2 ballistic missiles hitting even Tel Aviv. In Sudan, the government army, that is Sudanese armed forces, are continuing their offensive operations. In Kordofan front, they advanced and took over Karkaya region, including oil installation. In Zarizah front, they advanced towards Al Farizab. In Syria, there are several pockets of resistance against HTS, while fight is also on between Syrian National Army and Syrian Democratic Forces. And some other informations, US has finally rescinded Cuba's designation as state sponsorer of terror. And one of the major breaking news is that South Korean President Yoon Seol Yeol has been arrested finally. Lastly, there are massive strikes in Belgium against new pension scheme and social media operations in Moldova against payment of hiked gas consumption. Thank you.